Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of House of the Empire. Coming to you on the Phantom Empire YouTube channel, we've got way more than just House of the Dragon on tap, although with it coming out this coming Sunday, that is going to be a pretty big ticket item on tonight's show, not going to lie, but as you saw, there's going to be some Halloween discussions, there's going to be some Star Wars thrown in there, and all around hopefully a really good time for the next little while. Here to have a good time with me. My name is Zach. I've got Randy to my side, and I got Sean below me. Randy, I've been out of town for a week, and then I was off for the previous week. It's good to be back. How have you been?
Not doing too bad. Just the typical Monday as usual. But I'm not gonna lie, making these lists was a pain in the ass when when I have not watched multiple seasons. Like I've watched season one, season two, but I've only done it one time. So it's so hard to really feel like I'm doing these lists justice. But I will do my best. But yeah, man. I mean, yeah, it's definitely been a while since you've been around, so it's good to have you back on.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Got a much needed respite up in Colorado with my family for a few days and got to see some mountains instead of some big cities here in the Dallas area. So it was a nice change of pace, but good to get back into a rhythm. And like you said about the lists, we're doing a couple of different top fives tonight relating to House of the Dragon. And uh, I haven't seen season two since season two came out. So that's what, at least 2 years, two plus. So it's been a hot minute, and a lot of life has been lived between now and then. So yeah, trying to do it justice is going to be a big deal, but we're going to do it as much justice as we can as we get ready for the much anticipated third season. Sean, you're the bastard that told us to make these lists. First of all, fuck you. Second of all, hello. Thirdly, how hard was it for you to make these lists?
Well, let me just start off by correcting you out of the gate here. God knows I need to. Uh, Look, I know you say you were in Colorado, but I think the evidence, when you look at what has happened in the past, we get close. Really, we can go all the way back to the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones, but specifically our coverage of season 8 of Game of Thrones, and then the first season of House of the Dragon, and then the second season of House of the Dragon, and then A Night of the Seven Kingdoms that came out earlier this year. You'll notice Zach disappears for 2 or 3 weeks. And the truth is, in order to get into that Westeros vibe that he needs for this Sunday to be in the right headspace, to have his game face on, he goes on a retreat to honor the one true King Stannis leading into each new season of Westeros.
You've
Good
up
night,
and
everybody.
speechless. Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Damn. That
Uh,
was fast.
I
you know,
just
I never remember the actor's name, but I've seen him in a couple different things now. I think one of them was a movie you and I watched simultaneously years ago. Zach, it was like a came on Netflix and it was a movie that took place in like Game of Thrones era, but wasn't Game of Thrones. He was in it. I think there's some other Thrones actors that were in it. And then he was in something else more modern that I've seen. It like Stannis or hate Stannis. I think it's the guy's performance that gets me every single time. And I hate that I don't have a name to put to the face, but
Stephen Delane.
yeah, he's wonderful.
Uh,
It's kind of
I'm
like the guy that
I'm
plays Tywin. You don't like Tywin, but man, you can listen to him talk forever. Charles Dance.
Charles Dance. I like a lot more than Stannis.
He's a great
That's
character actor for sure.
oh man, I'm trying to see what he's been in recently, and it's not uh, the Professor and the Man. Oh, Outlaw King with Chris Pine.
Yes, I remember we
That's the
watched that and reviewed it years ago.
The Netflix movie came out in 2018. Man, that's a pre-COVID movie. Pretty much everything else I
Man,
don't
2018. Jesus.
recognize. He
And we
was
watched
in
that when it came out.
he was in 2004's King Arthur, and
Really?
he was in the 1990 Mel Gibson edition of Hamlet.
That's the Clive Owen King Arthur, right?
I believe so. It's a 2 hour and 20-minute film from 2004. So it was a movie, it wasn't a show.
I think Clive Owen and Keira Knightley and the old Mr. Fantastic from the original two Fantastic Four. I can't remember the actor's name, but
Like
Yeah.
Ian Griffith, I think is what his name is.
Yeah, I had to click on it, but that is the Clive Owen one, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't
he's in the
remember him
Clive
being in it, but it was decent.
he's in the Clive Owen that, and then I actually watched the Mel Gibson Glenn Close Hamlet for a college class in literature. So that was interesting. I might have to go back and watch that now. But all that to say, I have nothing against Delane as an actor. He was just acting the lines that were given to him. It's not his fault that the lines were shite.
In terms of the list, it was my moments wasn't so hard, but I think the episodes became a little harder, not because I didn't know which ones I liked the most, but there's only been 18 of them, and I was having a hard time figuring out what was what.
Yeah, in fact, so picking 5 out of the 18 is picking 27% of the series, almost 28%.
Wow.
But I will say that I tried to make my list of episodes first, and then I started thinking about the different moments that I was going to put on my list, because they're two different lists for those of you that are just tuning in. We're doing top 5 episodes of the series and our top 5 favorite moments. I did moments second, and I actually ended up having to go back and flip my number 2 and my number 1 based on the things that I selected from my top 5 moments. So that's something to look forward to. The moments influenced my decision making in the episode selection.
Interesting. I thought I was going to have a moment like that, pun intended, and then I had to weigh my favorite, not necessarily my favorite, but the favorite moment I was considering for a certain position. I'm like, well, I actually have a moment that's lesser than this, but the episode I have higher than that one. But I got thinking about it. I'm like, no, yeah, the episode as a whole is better. Just that particular moment was better.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I've got something similar, but we'll get to that in just a second here. Are we starting with the season preview, or are we going to go straight into the list?
I'm fine with season preview. We haven't really had a chance to talk about what we've seen marketing-wise.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking in the group chat earlier about some of the early reviews. Why don't we start with that and what you've seen from that? Because I haven't been on social media that much today. I've been working, unfortunately.
Well, if one of you two can pull up the most recent Rotten Tomato score, I have not checked it since this morning. But at one point, I believe there was 27 reviews. I might have that number wrong, but 27 verified reviews from critics. And throughout 4 episodes of House of the Dragon Season 1, it was at 100%. So
I just pulled it up. We've got 36 reviews now, and it's sitting at 97 now.
97. So it's dipped a tiny bit. New York Post called it all gas, no brakes. A couple other places basically just said if you didn't like the lack of action in season 2 at times, aka most of the time, then the first half of season 3 will cure that itch. Sounds like it's hard to take a breath without massive things happening. And then one other thing I read, which they probably got too detailed. I don't know if I thought it was just reactions they were allowed to do at this point, not full on reviews, but I wouldn't call it a full on review, but someone said that the first half of the season is breathtaking, among the best 4 episode stretch of Westeros TV period. But also said that the third episode is based around Rhaenyra, and that it's very conceptual. It's put together in a very different way that we've never seen before,
Hmm.
and that it just like it hits hard. And early on, you wonder how it's going to hit because it feels so different. And then by the end of the episode, you're like, oh shit, that worked. They did not give any more details than that. I know that's vague, but it definitely has me curious to see what happens there.
I'm gonna read a couple from the reviews I'm seeing, like just the little snippets from the different Rotten Tomatoes reviewers. If you're okay with that, Randy, unless you had something, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, man, I'm good. Go ahead.
So William Goodman from The Wrap says the creeping realization that the only way to win this conflict is to abandon any shred of honor entirely, and the emotional weight of that revelation makes the series richer because of it. Overall, this is Megan O'Keefe from Decider. Overall, the first 4 episodes of House of the Dragon season 3 represent a radical regrouping of the series after a disappointing season 2 finale. There was another one from comicbook.com. Firstly, is it good? That's a pretty simple answer because, yes, it is, both in terms of cast characters and spectacle. Will it fix the backlash? That is a little more complicated. So, James Hunt with a little more balanced review coming in from over there. Empire Magazine, which you touched on just a second ago, Carolyn Seed or Side, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, I'm sorry. More action packed, but still as thoughtful as ever. The first half of season 3 suggests it could very well be House of the Dragon's best offering yet. So, spectacle, emotional impact, a shifting of gears or a regrouping from season 2, all things that we were basically hoping for out of the series. And according to these first 4 episodes, at least, sounds like they're delivering on that a little bit.
Well, when you think about what we were promised in season 2 and how it just didn't give us everything what we were hoping for, yeah, it definitely sounds like they're trying to deliver, maybe even over deliver. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but it sounds promising. That does kind of help my excitement level a little bit. I know for you guys, you're heavy into the lore. I haven't read any of the books, so I'm just kind of I'm a fan, but I definitely not. I will say I'm not as into it as you two are. And that's I think it's part of the reason, one of the reasons why I really had a hard time picking top 5 of anything really. So it's then we'll talk about that later. But ultimately, though, I mean, you can't go wrong with the fact that so far it's getting great reviews. That's a good sign.
Now, we're only getting 8 episodes in this season, so they've only seen half the season. And the other half, nobody really knows yet. But to kick things off, these first few episodes, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you say at one point that these first 2 episodes are going to feel a bit more like what a season finale is traditionally feeling like? Because these 2 episodes were supposed to be in last season and they got pushed back. So these first 2 episodes of season 3 are going to have the climactic nature that you would expect from a season finale. And then on top of that, we'll get an actual season finale at the end of season 3.
Yeah, so I mean, to even go one step further than that, a couple of people who are in the know with basically all things Westeros, they're always the first people to debunk any Winds of Winter rumors and all that. They, Randy just mentioned us being really into it. They make us look like noobs. Um, they had reported, and it seems as if it's true, just given off of the reviews of the first 4 episodes. And I know at least one of these groups of people have seen the 4 episodes. but they claim to know how the season structured. The way they put it was episodes 1 and 2 are essentially episodes 9 and 10 of season 2 that had to be cut for budgetary reasons, essentially. They'll tell you it's for creative reasons, but it sounds like they ran out of money. And the extended break after that, what it ended up being is apparently, again, episode 1 is like penultimate Game of Thrones style episode, which is where a lot of the big battles happens in Thrones. And then episode 10 was always typically your tie everything up. But in some of the later seasons, the episode 10, specifically in 5 and 6, are fairly action and big event happy. And then, like you said, Zach, you're going to get that again at the end of the season. It's not a season that's cut short, like, oh, we're saving the next 2 for the following season.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also went on to say, though, that your 1, 2, 7, 8 are tremendous. But if you look at Game of Thrones and the way it's put together, the middle of the seasons usually have very important events that happen. I mean, you get random episodes of Game of Thrones where important events happen. But when you look at the structure of the show, roughly season 3 through 6 specifically, those like episode 4, episode 5 area, even episode 6, it's where you see a lot of things like Hold the Door and my God, why can I not think of the place? Jon Snow goes with Tormund to recruit the wildlings. I cannot think of the name of the place, but it's the one where the Night King raises everybody from.
It's right in the
Oh, no,
title,
typically
isn't
not.
it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Damn,
I
and
just
it's one of my favorite episodes too.
Yeah, I know. I just can't think of the name of it, which is killing me. If anyone thinks of the name of that fucking place this episode, let us know. But anyway, apparently the season is basically a season on steroids.
Hard Home.
Season, Hard Home. That's it. Yes.
Hard Home.
That's not an end of the season type thing.
I wanted to say Harrenhal, but I knew that was a different part of the map. I knew it started with an H.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's going to be many slow episodes in this. It doesn't sound like any of the first 4 are slow. And then if 7 or 8, the reports on that are believed to be true, which is where another one of those massive battles is supposed to take place. The only episodes that you're leaving to question here are 5, 6, 5, 6 really. And it's like, I really hope they do hit a home run with this. Like, I don't want it to just be good. I want it to be great, because if you go back and listen to our reviews or watch our reviews from the first season compared to our reviews of the second season, I still remember our review of the finale, Zach. Like, for all the wrong reasons, it'll be one of the most memorable episodes I've ever recorded from you, because I literally found myself pacing because of how let down and pissed off I was with that. And I know people felt that way about Game of Thrones, but I never felt that way about Game of Thrones. Like, yeah, I wish season 7 and 8 would have been longer, but I didn't necessarily want different events to happen. I just felt like we didn't get enough. But with this, I felt ripped off a bit. So I want this to be great. I think they need it to be great. I think season 2 might be, and I don't think it's bad TV, but when you compare it to the other, I guess, what is it now? 10 seasons of Westeros content, it might be last of them all.
Well, 11 if you count Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah, like with it's 11. I think it might be 11th.
I was gonna ask, like, based on what content we've gotten, because the stakes are a little bit higher, and we are a little bit more intimate with some of the ensemble cast because we're paying so much attention to them. I would dare say that, like, in maybe like seasons, maybe season 2 doesn't have as big of a stakes until you get to Blackwater. But man, I don't know. Is all of season 2? Because I mean, does the Red Wedding happen in season 3 or 4? I think the Red Wedding's in season 4, isn't it?
3.
Is it in 3? So yeah, I mean, you can't say that season 2 of House of the Dragon is better than the season that has the Red Wedding. And you can't say that it's better than the first season of Game of Thrones because that's Ned Stark's season. So like, what seasons could it be better than? There's not much to go off of. And maybe it's recency bias, but I did really like A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I think the enjoyment factor was just higher in Night of the Seven Kingdoms than it was in season 2. So I'm not going to necessarily disagree with you. I'm not going to dispute this claim that season 2 of House of the Dragon might be the worst season of Westeros we've ever gotten. Randy, can you think of any reason why it shouldn't be?
I mean, not off the top of my head. It would. I mean, I would have to really do a deep dive to really be able to just kind of nitpick it to the point of where I could say yay or nay. But season 2 for House of the Dragon felt more like just one big setup with a couple of action pieces here and there. So that's kind of why I'm looking at season 3. It's like, okay, we've got all this build up. It's a powder keg. It's ready to blow, and we're talking about the first 4 episodes. And they're firing off on all cylinders potentially. You know, you can sit there and say season 2 is the worst, but for the fact that we could get a satisfying conclusion to what we got, the buildup we had, then, you know, maybe all that exposition and just general stuff that really just kind of adds to it. But still, ultimately, you're right. It's not. I had far more fun with A Night of the Seven Kingdoms than I did with House of the Dragon season 2. I won't lie there.
Now, all that to say, season 3 is expected to pick up with a lot that is going on, because if we don't remember, this season is supposed to start with the Battle of the Gullet, which is arguably one of the top 3 largest battles in this entire Civil War. It's going to involve a navy that is going to try to stand against Lord Corlys, who is, you know, the main guy for naval influence in Westeros. And so it's gonna be a big one, not just because of fleet on fleet, but also because you're going to have I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, around 8 dragons participating in this battle as well. So they'll be fighting each other as well as trying to take out various warships, and it is going to be insane. I won't list, you know, who survives and who doesn't, because that's a bit too much. But there will be casualties, like because of the weight of this episode needing to be kind of like an episode 9 and 10. I can guarantee you that they're going to hit the ground running with these first couple of episodes, and for that, I'm pretty excited. I'm gonna try to avoid spoilers, what the outcome is. Do the Greens win? Do the Blacks win? That kind of thing. We'll find out all of that for the most part on Sunday. But I just want to emphasize how excited I am for a naval battle. We don't get very many of those in Westeros. Theon is a part of one late in the series in Game of Thrones, and then his uncle tries to swoop in with a navy to try to gain Cersei's favor, I think, in seasons 7 and 8. And I believe he's able to use one of his warships to take out one of Daenerys's dragons, if memory serves. So, like, there are some naval implications, but for the most part, in the Game of Thrones series, they use ships more for transport than they do for warfare. And this encounter is going to be predominantly on the sea or in the air, and it's going to be truly unique, I think. and that is something that I'm genuinely excited for from this third season.
Yeah, I don't know specific spoilers. Obviously, I could have read the book for years now, and I've not. I don't know characters who die. The most I might know is if they stick to what Joffrey says in Game of Thrones, which I won't recap here. But I'm not sure they're going to do that. And if you're a George R. R. Martin purist, I can tell you you're probably going to be upset because it does sound like they have changed more things to fit the way they want to tell the story, um, which is really not all that different than Game of Thrones in the last 3 seasons. And it's not like the outlines for these events are long. Like I think people think there's books and books and books of House of the Dragon that gets super detailed on stuff, but there's not. It's very minuscule. So the fact that Ryan Condal and his team have decided to take some creative freedom, like that's television. That's the movie business, you know? It's source material. It's not follow the yellow brick road material.
Well, and that if and when deviations take place, there's somebody that's going to take to the internet and make a blog post about how much their material was butchered and their insights were not appreciated, and wah, it's all about me, and fuck those guys and for not including me and letting me play with my toys the way I wanted to.
Yeah, unfortunately, there will be, and then that'll continue to create a further divide.
And give
You
us
know,
more material to talk about. Yay!
what do we got next, then?
I believe we're into the top fives, unless anybody has any further things to say or hope for or predict about season 3.
I just hope it's good. There we go. I'm done.
The Mandalorian and Grogu was a complete dud. I would really like for this to not be a complete dud. And my expectations are really high on this one. Usually, I do an okay job at keeping them in check. No, I haven't done that this time at all. So I might have no one to blame but myself at the end of the day.
We're going to be finding out in just a few short days, bud. And y'all are going to be seeing a bit more of me as a result. Game of Thrones is just one of my favorite franchises. It's up there with Star Wars for me. So I'm going to do my best to be as on the program and as diligent as I can be to try to contribute to some of these conversations. Obviously, there are going to be some personal things that get in the way here and there. But if you missed me in the next couple of months, you're going to be getting sick of me. Just fair warning. But let's go ahead and go into our top fives. The first one that I had on the docket was our top 5 episodes of the series. Obviously, that can change in about a month or two. So we may have to revise these lists once the new season comes out. But this is only for seasons 1 and 2 for now. And then maybe we'll make a new top 5 after the season comes out. But this is going to be a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown. Just going to go, somewhat rapid fire. Just kind of give a brief explanation, under a minute for each one if possible. Maybe under 30 seconds even if possible. Just a brief recap of what that episode is and what you liked about it, kind of thing. And then we'll move on to our top 5 moments. But this is top 5 episodes from House of the Dragon. Randy, you want to kick us off?
So, again, I know for you guys it's going to be relatively different because of how you view the series. So I'm just kind of going to go and just kind of list off what I can just based on my vague memories. So I'm going to start with season 2, episode 7, The Red Sowing. Basically, it's when Rhaenyra's search for new dragon riders, because I thought that was just a fun episode for me in general, just because of all the just watching the people try to, earn the trust of the dragon and things like that. It's it just stuck with me. That's one that stuck with me because of I don't know what the sad part is. A lot of the stuff is gonna involve dragons for me, but yeah, it's just that to me that stuck out the most in that episode, and it's just kind of why right now that's my number five. I know it's a shit reason, but like I said, I had a rough time doing this list.
Sorry, feel free to do the. Are we doing around the horn, Sean? Or are we doing countdown style?
Countdown.
Okay, so
All the way to one,
you've got
or
the
all the
floor.
or
Yeah,
or
you've
okay.
got the floor from 5 to 1, sir.
So for number four, I went with Driftmark, which is season 1, episode 7. Uh, Obviously, that the funeral on Driftmark was, one of those interesting episodes. Obviously, having the confrontation between the Targaryen children was always going to have that uh, emotional emotional punch. Uh, and then, of course, we get to see Aemon claim Vagar, it's one of those things where we all know the dragons have, you have to have a certain way with dragons, and the fact that he's able to do that shows a lot for him. So number three, I've got the Black Queen, season 1, episode 10. Uh, Obviously, this is where Rhaenyra learns about what happens with the Iron Throne, and then of course we have that the climax with the two dragons battling over Stormend and Lucerys meeting his end there. Number two, Lord of the Tide, season 1, episode 8. It's always good to have a episode where it's centered around Viserys, especially the defense of his defense of Rhaenyra and the claim on the throne, and having that emotional dinner at the end there during that episode there. There's always it was probably one of the better episodes in terms of just acting and kind of setting the table for everything. And then my number one is Red Dragon and the Gold, season 2, episode 4. And we got the Battle of Rook's Rest, and given that first major like dragon on dragon battle, which is something we had been waiting for a while, and that's the one that sticks out with me the most. It's one of my favorites because of just how well it sets everything up for the rest of the season.
That's a really solid list, man. And I'll tell you exactly how solid in just a moment, but we'll get Sean's list before we do so. Sean, what have you got for your 5 as of seasons 1 and 2?
All right. Number 5 for me is We Light the Way, which is the wedding from season 1. I just think the set design, the choreography, the acting, the score, everything looked as immaculate and incredible as you could possibly want it to look. It was also a big marketing piece in the first season, something that they were putting in a lot of the trailers. Everything that happens there. But one of I guess, two of my favorite parts, really quickly, of that particular episode that I think really boosts it is when Alicent walks out and she's wearing green, and everyone's just kind of looking at her, and even Viserys is kind of like, "What the fuck?" But you don't hear it from him; you see it visually on his face. And then another Viserys "what the fuck" moment when Daemon's getting like super, super close to Rhaenyra, almost like you are not seriously going to do this here in front of everybody. Just an incredible episode altogether. 4 for me is the pilot. Without the success of the pilot on the heels of Game of Thrones, I don't know where we are. And I thought they aced the pilot. It had me super hooked right away, very invested in the characters and the story, and to see where it goes. Number 3 for me was season 1, episode 7, Driftmark. Obviously, we get the funeral at the beginning, and it's the first episode with the older cast. Sorry, it's the second episode with the older cast. But the first one where like everybody's really all together, um, and sharing like the same scenes. Um, but the end sequence, the confrontation after Aemon loses his eye, and they're all in the hall, and Alicent goes nuts and ignores Viserys and does the hand cutting thing to Rhaenyra, like, and Damon's just like amused watching on the sidelines. That was a great one. Lord of the Tides, which is season 1, episode 8. Um, I won't say what the moment is, but it contains my favorite moment in the entire series, and I think the moment is big enough to boost that up this high on the list. And number one for me is the Black Queen for all the reasons Randy said. Like the I guess the dogfight, if you will, between dragons at the end. Both Rhaenyra and Daemon's reactions to the passing of Viserys, the crowning, the table that we've seen so many times in Game of Thrones being lit and looking just incredible. Yeah, and you might notice all my favorite episodes are all from season 1.
Yeah, I did notice that. So you didn't look too favorably on the Battle of Rook's Rest?
In fairness, it was 6. I had to really decide between the two, and it came in 6.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to keep like a little tally mark here in order to see what kind of commonalities we all had. I believe, Randy, you and I had 4 out of the same 5,
Damn.
and 2 of them in the exact same spot. So pretty similar wavelengths there. Sean, I believe you had 4 out of the 5 with Randy and 3 out of 5 with me. So at the very least, we've got 3 out of the same 5 in our top 5 across the board, which I think is pretty telling of how good those particular episodes are. And also pretty telling that when it comes down to like picking our favorite / best episodes, there's not necessarily as much to choose from when it's just 2 seasons, but it's still pretty telling. It's still interesting to see those comparisons. So without further ado, I will.
If I can just add in for a second, one of the reasons he's not here tonight is he didn't want to be spoiled for any season 2 stuff, but Dustin just finished season 1 of House of the Dragon. He's watched it all in the last week, and I'll give you his brief thoughts. His mind was pretty blown. He thought the cast change was a little jarring at first, but he was thrilled with the entire season and called it one of the best Westeros seasons there are. And I tend to agree. I think that's why I got hooked on the show. Like it's a top 5 Westeros season for me for sure.
Quite a contrast when we're looking at season 2 being possibly one of the worst, and season 1 being pretty up there as far as the politicking goes, the acting goes, etc. So at my number 5, it's also going to be Randy's number 5. It's The Red Sowing, season 2, episode 7. I think involving dragon seeds was a desperate but ingenious move. And to have Hugh end up on Vermithor and Ulf end up on Silverwing, those are big game changers for Team Rhaenyra and are going to have big implications in this 3rd season. Vermithor, if I'm not mistaken, is the 2nd largest dragon behind Vhagar. And so to have something that big on your side is going to be a game changer, because now you've got not only the 2nd largest dragon, but you have more dragons in totality than your opponent. And so the tides are shifting, hopefully, in Rhaenyra's favor because of this episode. Number 4 is going to be season 1, episode 10, the finale of The Black Queen. It's just because of the final 20 minutes. It's like everything builds up to that. Everything pays off because of that. it leaves you on such a tense emotional cliffhanger, and you wonder exactly what hell is going to be unleashed by the second season. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a letdown because there's not that much that gets unleashed. But in the moment, at the time, that episode had a huge lasting impact and made people really excited for what was going to come. And that's exactly what you want from a season finale. So I'll put that at number 4. The pilot takes the bronze medal for me. Heirs of the Dragon set the stage incredibly well. It helped you reintegrate yourself into the world of Westeros in a way that felt both familiar and unique. There were things about it that reminded you of, oh, this is King's Landing, and oh, this is the way they speak, and oh, this is the way things look. But at the same time, completely different characters, completely different situation, completely different political scenario. All of these things kind of helped combine it into something that was compelling and unique and yet also familiar. And that was exactly what you needed from the pilot of this series. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I originally had these two inverted. And because of the moments that we're going to talk about in just a little bit here, I ended up flipping them. So the silver medal for me is actually going to be the red dragon and the gold. It was at the top spot because of the dragon fight, because we finally got what we had been looking for a season and a half. They finally delivered dragon on dragon action that wasn't just Vagar coming out and chomping a completely inferior dragonfly of a dragon. It was a true dogfight, and it was taking place during a critical battle, and it was very, very important. And you lose an important dragon and an important character who had been helping carry the show up to that point. And so there's a ton of impact in there. And it was going to be my number 1, but I ended up switching it. And this might be a dark horse, I don't know. But my number 1 is actually going to be the 8th episode of season 1, Lord of the Tides. And there's 2 reasons for it. And both of those reasons end up in my House of the Dragon top 5 moments. So because I ended up having 2 separate but important individual moments that took place in the same episode, I don't have that from anything else. I don't remember anything else from the Red Dragon and the Gold other than the dog fight at Rook's Rest. I don't remember anything else from the episode, but I remember that. But I do remember that there were 2 critical moments that happened in episode 8, Lord of the Tides. And that's why it's going to take home number 1 for me.
I have a feeling I know what one of the big moments is, but I guess we shall find out. I believe we're on to that next, are we not?
We are indeed. Do we want to go in reverse order? Do you guys want me to kick off and we'll finish with Randy this time?
Fine with whatever.
Okay. Well, Randy, if you're okay with me with the paying off the little anticipation I've been giving folks.
Have at it.
So my number 5 moment is this is another one that I'm pretty sure is not going to show up anywhere else for anybody else, but I think it's important, and it's going to be one of those hear me out type of things. At number 5, this isn't a favorite moment. I went with like top 5 important moments. I do not like this scene. Okay. I do not enjoy this scene at all. And that's exactly why I think it's important. Season 1, episode 9, Larys providing information and Alicent providing her feet. Those are critical things that keep the cog of politics moving. But to see it unfold in front of you is just nerve-wracking. To see that somebody who was believed to be a cripple and a person of little import having that kind of physical and emotional impact on one of the most powerful people in this world, in this kingdom, was an important moment to show just how devious he is, just how underhanded he is, just how perverted he is, that he is willing to go to extreme lengths, such as killing his own father, just so that he can get his jollies off on the queen's feet. That is just the epitome of fucked up Game of Thrones. And it's going to get in there at number 5. On number 4, we're going to have Blood and Cheese. Anytime children are involved, it's another one of those fucked up but important moments. You lose a son in the season 1 finale, so you try to take a son in the early parts of season 2. I understand where Damon's coming from. That doesn't mean I agree with it. Innocence should not beget the death of innocence. And it's just really, really sad to see that unfold. And it's even more unnerving in the book. From what I understand, the source material is even more grotesque than what they did in the show. And that's saying something, because the show's pretty messed up too. But Blood and Cheese is going to be at number 4. Now we're getting into some of the things that are going to tie into this being my favorite episode. At number 3, season 1, episode 8, The Lord of the Tides. Vaemond is making a claim to become the next Lord of the Tides because his brother is critically ill, critically injured. And he stands before the throne claiming that Rhaenyra's children are bastards, and that she is a whore, and that he is the one who deserves Driftmark. And it's one of the last things he ever says. And the surprising nature of just seeing his head split in two was one of the most jaw-dropping moments of the whole show. And one of the biggest ones in Game of Thrones, I would dare say. Top 10, probably, of those jaw-dropping, impactful moments in more ways than one. So that comes in at number 3. Lucerys' death is number 2. His death is not only the final nail in the coffin that actually ignites the war, but the way that it comes about. He's on a mission for his mom. He's trying to be polite and politically correct. He comes across a danger that he is not comfortable with, tries to evade it, and ends up dead anyways. And I would dare say, because he's out doing some politically charged things for his mom, he is not as innocent as Aegon's children are at King's Landing. And so to lose Lucerys like that, and then them retaliate by taking a couple of innocent babes, that feels like a step too far to me. But to lose someone who is barely a teenager, I think he's like 11 or 12. I don't think he's even a teenager. To lose someone like that, and to see the impact that it has on everybody, and the way that that is the first domino to fall in this civil war, it's a big moment. It's a very big moment. But it's not the biggest moment. Not to me, anyways. The biggest moment also comes from season 1, episode 8, the family dinner. The tensions that rise and fall during that dinner are absolutely breathtaking. And then when a toast is raised to these strong boys, implying that they are the sons of Sir Strong, oh, that was some of the best writing in the whole show. Some of the best writing. And you've got an ensemble cast of people who are at the top of their game in this scene. And it just carries so much emotional weight in so many different ways that if you don't have that scene, if you don't have everybody trying to play nice, if you don't have those bonds showing that this is family, going after family, then I don't think it really helps the viewer appreciate the scope of this civil war. That the people sitting around this table are responsible for sending thousands upon thousands of people into upheaval because this table can't agree with one another. This little group of people ends up committing so many atrocities, trying to unseat one another from the throne at the expense of countless lives because they can't get along. And it all stems, I think, from that dinner. So that is why Lord of the Tides takes the top spot for me, because not only do you have Vaemon's beheading, but you also have the family dinner that literally sets the table for the entire civil war to come afterwards.
It's hard to argue. It's such an impactful episode. I'm gonna dive into my list. I'm glad that episode appeared more than once for you. I didn't even think about, like, I'm not saying the dinner wasn't important. It was, but I have an entire sequence from that episode as my moment. And I guess I didn't think about giving it a second moment, but I kind of wish I did now. Number 5 for me is a moment from season 2. It's Rhaenys's death. That entire sequence there, when they first start the battle, to when she kind of accepts it at the end and holds her hands out as she's falling, arms out as she's falling. That was powerful. I also really liked the character. I thought the character was, you know, provided a different perspective for Team Black and wasn't just like in Rhaenyra's pocket from the beginning, right? So, and like the loss that character went through too in the show, at least to her knowledge anyway, was something else entirely. The confrontation at Driftmark, when the hand slicing happens and Alicent's demanding more, and Viserys is, trying to say he's the king, and just the tension in that scene. It's almost like it's the prequel to the dinner scene from episode 8, which is in fact only one episode later. So, in a way, it is. The end of the pilot. From the time that Viserys lets in Rhaenyra on essentially the events of Game of Thrones, right? That's what he's telling her. The way they handle that whole scene, and that blends into her coronation, which blends into the first time we get to hear the Game of Thrones theme in the show, was just wonderfully edited. And I don't know if they could have done better than what they did with that. Number 2 for me is the dragon chase at the end of season 1. Such a good job with that. Felt like a dogfight out of the original trilogy of Star Wars. Heck, actually, if I went one step further, I'd say it kind of felt like the Obi-Wan Jango Fett fight with what ends up happening at the end. Obviously, it doesn't go that far with Obi-Wan and Jango, but really well done. Just some iconic images in that when we're watching the smaller dragon there flying, and then you get the silhouette of the much bigger dragon. I'm forgetting names here, which is terrible. Second biggest dragon to ever live. What's her name again?
Vagar.
Vagar. So you get her silhouette there, and it's just during the storm. It's just such a incredible image. George Lucas used to go on about how the images in his films were meant to tell the story. In that case, it really did with House of the Dragon. And then my favorite moment ever in the series is from the time in season 1, episode 8, that the doors open and we see the Phantom of the Opera version of Viserys, who is not hopped up on drugs this time, is putting his body through absolute hell to come to his daughter's defense. Um, the moment where he's climbing the throne, where the entire audience is like, God, no, he's gonna friggin' impale himself. To him dropping the crown and Damon being the one to pick it up after how well their story had been told from the beginning of the season was such like a nice, touching, damn near perfect moment. All the way up to when Damon takes what's his face's head there. Um, it's it might be one of my favorite sequences in all of Game of Thrones. Just so wonderfully done, and from every department too, from the acting in it to the little bit of action we see in it. The set is incredible as always. The throne room, but the score during it, just incredible, top notch stuff.
That's kind of hard to follow up with you guys, especially since mine involve more pretty much lots of dragons for the most part. So I'm going to start with my number 5 was Eric versus Eric, because I liked the dynamic they had where you have two men, twins, but with loyalty split between the two, and just having that emotional brother versus brother battle, and basically both end up dying because the one brother can't live with the fact that he had to kill his own brother. It was kind of poetic in the sense of showing just what the type of destruction both sides are going to have on just not just people but families. Like it's enough to divide families and essentially put them in danger to the point of just getting them killed. It's similar to what kind of given that little nod to the U.S. Civil War when you think about it, like brother versus brother, North versus South. It's that's that feeling you're going to get from this, and that's one of the reasons that's my number 5. My number 4 is the Rhaenyra calling Vermithor forward to basically have a rider chosen, to pick a rider essentially. The power that she had in that, like just her presence on the screen for me, considering the size of the dragon and just how imposing he looked and how intimidating he looked, and just the fact that she herself just stood there in defiance and showing her true strength when it comes to her control over the dragons, that really resonated well with me. So that's why that's my number 4. Number 3 is Rhaenys basically escaping during the coronation, where she gets on Meleys and basically could potentially end everything there, but she chose not to. But the visual of the dragon coming up through the floor with her riding on it and eventually escaping, that whole scene was just so well done for me. Number 2 for me is Aemon and Vhagar, essentially the dragon chase with Lucerys and Eryx. And like you said, Sean, just the visuals, the lightning lighting up the sky, and you see Vhagar above the smaller dragon, and just the effects were so well done, and the emotion was there. And you could even tell that Aemon was like, no, you shouldn't do this. And Vhagar was like, screw this shit. I'm eating this punk ass kid and the dragon. That by far was probably one of the more shocking things for me so far, next to Blood and Cheese. But that's one of the reasons that one stuck out with me so much, as one of my favorite moments, because of the emotional weight that it brought down in the episode, and just the repercussions from it that we don't see right away, but eventually we get to see just how Rhaenyra responds to it once she finally has her time to just basically stew in it some. And then my number 1 is for me, it's the Battle of Rook's Rest, where we have Meleys versus Vhagar, and eventually you see Sunfire come in, and pretty much this is where we see Aemon finally start to hatch his plan to take the crown for himself. And just the weight of it all, and the fact that we get to see just how vicious he's going to be moving forward, where he's finally taking over Plus, obviously, losing such a character like Rhaenys, who, like Zach said, has helped carry, especially season 2, really helped carry the show really well. And it's a huge, impactful loss. And obviously, now that we're moving into season 3, we're going to get to see just kind of how much that battle kind of sets up everything moving forward.
It's a really solid list, man. I had actually kind of forgotten Eric versus Arik, so I appreciate that somebody made mention of that. I watched the behind the scenes featurette for that episode, and they really, really had to get their choreography down exactly right in order for that to have that kind of emotional impact that you're talking about. And so the amount of care that went into that, the amount of effort that went into that, the type of shot selection, choreography, that is up there among some of the best 1v1 duels in the whole show, I think, in my opinion. Okay, well, those of you that are still with us in the chat, be sure to tell us what your favorite episodes are and what some of your favorite moments are from these first couple of seasons. Like I said off the top, picking 5 episodes is about 27 to 28% of the whole show. And then trying to pick 5 moments, it gives you a little bit more to work with. But uh, I really feel like it's going to change quite a bit when this 3rd season comes out. So I really liked doing it now because it got the juices flowing. But I think it's going to be really interesting once season 3 comes out as well, because hello, the Starks are finally going to be in it. So I'm looking forward to seeing how big of a role they play, and if they make it into my top 5 moments, if they do anything special in season 3 also.
I kind of find it hard to think that if we're supposed to get these huge, immense battles, that something from them has to feel like it should make our top 5. Now, I'm not saying that it's a lock, but you would think the way things are looking, the way things are hyped up, the way season 2 finished, and how we know season 3 is going to start, it almost feels like something, whether it's from the first episode or the 4th episode or even the season finale, something should kind of usurp a spot or maybe multiple spots. I think it's just exciting to think about the possibilities, unless you're someone who's read all the books and you're just kind of going, I already know what's going to happen. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
The only source material I've read all the way through is the first novella for Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Other than that, I'm going off of some wiki articles. I'm going off of some, threads from Twitter X and Blue Sky, and I'm going off of what this guy down here is able to accumulate from various sources. And so it'll be fun to put all of those pieces of the puzzle together. Season 3 debuts on Sunday on HBO Max, and we'll be reviewing it not long after that. Be sure to tune in every Monday for some of our reviews, responses, and reactions. Joining us for the next couple of segments, he'll be sliding in to talk about Star Wars and Halloween. I'll slide out after we're done talking about Star Wars, but helping us complete the square of I wouldn't say it's Hollywood squares, because none of us have been to Hollywood. Well, I've been, but I haven't been a part of it. Johnny, welcome to the show. Long time no talk.
Oh yeah, it's been forever.
I mean, it's been a couple of, for me, a couple of weeks at least.
Yeah, we did the when we did the after Mando and Grogu, I guess it's probably the last time.
Well, we're not talking about Mando and Grogu tonight, but we are going to be trying to do a little bit of some Star Wars related stuff here on this second half of the show. Sean, I might need you to help me out a little bit on this, because I have not heard about details of an unaired show that has come out recently. Can you enlighten us on what that means and what kind of thoughts you're trying to gather on us from that?
So the big project that was being worked on by Lucasfilm back in the day, prior to George Lucas finally going, okay, you know what, maybe I will do 7, 8, and 9, and then he ends up deciding to sell. Contrary to popular belief, he had decided once again for like the 10th time that he was going to do episodes 7, 8, and 9. So like this is prior to the Disney selling. He had investigated the selling of Lucasfilm to Disney, but it didn't seem like he was going to go down that road, and he was focused on doing episode 7, 8, and 9 at the time of the sale. Prior to that, the big project that was in the works for many years, to the point there is test footage that you can find on YouTube for it, was the Star Wars Underworld. It was going to be an underworld show set between episodes 3 and 4. Rick McCallum recently did a interview, and I don't know how many of these details he was supposed to reveal, but he would go on to say that they had 60 finished scripts. I know there's been reports out there in the past that there was 100. He said no, there was 60, and we're not talking first draft. We're talking final draft with some of the best writers in.
Like ready to
in
shoot.
Correct. Yeah, they were ready and set to go. The problem was the show they had planned, and this has happened basically in every George Lucas production that he did. If you've watched any of the behind the scenes, um, the show that he planned ended up becoming much more grand, much more higher scale and higher stakes with more known names, and with that, the budget ballooned. Um, so they had 60 scripts ready to shoot. There were a few written by Lucas himself. And the other, they didn't mention the other names, but the other names involved were a lot of very famous TV writers, even a couple of movie writers that got in there. One of them pretty heavily, who had done something like 12 of the 60, and it'd be a super well-known name that people would know instantly. He didn't give the name away, probably doesn't want, the guy getting blasted with media attention. But once they did the test footage for what they wanted to do, um, it was not doable. Like, we were talking, I think they were aiming at 8 to 10 episode seasons, possibly as much as 12. But when you hear the budget per episode, 12 was not going to be possible. This is like way back in, I want to say 2009, 2010, when they're in the thick of it. And they ended up being at a budget of $40 million an episode back then. The big grand series today, like for House of the Dragon, your most expensive episode might cost 40 million, with the others scaling down to 20, 15. I think what was it, The Long Night in Game of Thrones, I think, cost almost that much. You can't have every one of your episodes, especially back then, costing that. There's not a bunch of streaming services to sell your project off to. And McCallum went on to say the closest they got before having to mail it in was the previous head of HBO really wanted to do it. He wanted to see if we could get the budget down a bit, but that they were very close. They were about to have not a final meeting, but a serious meeting on, can we make this work? Can we get the budget down just a little bit to the point where it's still insanely expensive? But Lucasfilm, according to Rick McCallum, was ready to say, okay, you know what? We'll make the fourth Indiana Jones movie with you. And we'll do a Star Wars standalone movie, which the Star Wars standalone movie George Lucas always talked about most was the Han Solo movie. Obviously not what ended up coming out. But the idea that they could have been done in tandem with HBO as a big screen release, like, that was their sales pitch, and not like that they'd have to pay for it, but in order for HBO to help out with the bill of the TV series, Lucasfilm was just going to cut them in 50-50 on everything that was going to come out theatrically. The day before the meeting was supposed to happen, the head of HBO was fired. Yeah.
Damn it. HBO working on the Star Wars show, that would have been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and apparently they were the only real serious suitor at that price, and even they were like, the budget's got to come down. Like that's not realistic, and it makes sense. Like who on cable, like on television, is going to pay for that? It's a what could have been story, but interesting. Needless to say about the details, and I know they asked him, "Is there a chance that one day, the scripts might leak?" And he's like, "Well, a part of the Disney purchase was those scripts, and those scripts were sold to Disney. So unless they leak from the Mouse House, probably not."
Game of Thrones debuted in 2011, did it not?
That or 2010, one of the two. Maybe even 2009, but I think it was 2010.
Now I'm looking. When did Game of Thrones come out? The original series premiered on April 17th, 2011.
Oh, well, I was wrong. First time for everything.
Nanner. But they were obviously working on it by that time, by around 2008, 2009, because it takes a while for a story that grand to be put together, greenlit, pilot, done, produced, all of that stuff. It starts well in advance. So basically, around the time that they had to drop Star Wars was around the time that they picked up Game of Thrones and started working on it.
That makes sense.
So, I'm not mad at the trade. I was mad at the Luca trade. I'm not mad at this trade to get the epic universe that we've gotten from Game of Thrones, but to miss out on Star Wars Underworld, Star Wars : Underworld. Yeah, it's a bummer. It would have been interesting to see, especially with the type of production that HBO is capable of. But I think everything turned out okay based on those timeline pieces and those numbers. I'm glad we got Game of Thrones instead.
Yeah, apparently it was going to span across several years, and that there'd be a heavy Imperial focus and a heavy bounty hunter focus. Boba Fett would pop in as an occasional character. Vader would pop in as an occasional character. A lot of what diehard Star Wars fans ask for a lot of the time. But even I can sit here and say, hey, if you can't get your budget, and this is way back when, below 40 million an episode, I don't care how close you think you were to getting a deal with HBO, it needed to come down way more than that.
Well,
I think half of that.
I think just goes to show just how big Lucas likes to go with it, because I would think it'd be kind of hard if you just done movies and now you're trying to do a TV show and you're trying to budget for, you only know how to make movies a certain way. It makes sense that it would be some ridiculous amount per episode, but yet, still the thought of HBO and ILM working together on like post-production and all the effects and things like that, just it's crazy to think of just how good that had the potential to be. It's also very frustrating to know that Disney's just like, oh yeah, we got these scripts, we ain't doing shit with them. It's like,
well,
okay.
It was a double whammy loss in terms of expanding Lucasfilm to a point where they probably wouldn't have needed to sell to Disney. I mean, they didn't necessarily need to, but even though George Lucas, what did he get for it? $4+ billion for Star Wars, I believe. I don't think it was 8. I think it was 4.
4 to 5.
4.05.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, and a bunch of stock options that were worth a ton of money. The big thing that really, the big loss that came out of the series wasn't just the series itself, is they recorded a bunch of test footage themselves, but Lucas had bought land to build his own studio. where he could film all the projects instead of going, to New Zealand or going over to London or whatever for massive stage space. He had bought a significant amount of land that would have made him the biggest filming studio in all of North America. And when the deal didn't happen for the series, they ended up abandoning that. And you can see what he was thinking there, not only for his projects, but then they can lease out that studio space to all the other studios that, don't want to wait another 6 months or a year to get their project up off the ground. They want it now. And as he always said, you do this long enough to become the thing that you hate, which is at the head of a corporation. Anyone who's read anything or listened or watched anything on George Lucas's history, he's pretty anti-Hollywood. Well, he was set to really make that last step in becoming Mr. Hollywood, and ultimately it didn't happen.
You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So, by comparison, the first season of Game of Thrones, which was their next project after they stepped away, I would imagine, from this project, the first season of Game of Thrones only cost them $6 million an episode. And
Yeah.
Lucasfilm was looking at 40, possibly bringing it down to what, 35? 35 and 32 at the very bottom dollar versus making a hit show that went on for years and years, starting on a $6 million an episode budget. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, one might argue that Star Wars was a way bigger brand, way more of a sure thing back then. But even then, you could be the most generous studio head, and you might go, "All right, Star Wars is worth 3 times this, even 4 times that." That you're only getting that number up to 18 or 24 by timesing it by 3 or 4. You're not even close to where you have your estimated budget per episode. That wasn't even the most expensive episodes in the scripts. So
that was the average episode.
Yeah, once again, like, I know Lucas didn't write all of them, far from it, but he was involved in the writing on all of them. And if you go back and watch the making of any of the first 6 Star Wars movies, pushing the envelope is a thing for him. But clearly this time he just went a little too far, and nobody was going to approve that budget then, and you can't pay for it yourself or you're going to be bankrupt. There's no big streaming service giving you a ton of money up front.
Not back then. I think all they had back then was Blockbuster Total Access and Netflix DVD delivery. Well, there's still one more item on the docket for the Star Wars universe, unless we need to trim that for conversation's sake. I know the Halloween folks have been itching for us to get to that particular franchise.
Well, I'll ask this to Johnny and Randy before we move on. I guess to you too, Zach. If you could have had the Star Wars Underworld, and obviously the details are vague, but from HBO, right? Let's say they did it for $25 million an episode back then, or you could have had the Disney era Star Wars. Which one are you taking?
I mean, given the quality we know that HBO puts into everything they do, I would have easily back then. I would have easily said, "Give me the HBO stuff," because I know it's going to be good. Even the worst episode is going to be good. Now it's a damn crapshoot with whatever we get. It feels like half the time.
That's a tough one. But probably not for the reasons you're thinking of. Like, from a quality standpoint, I think it would have been fantastic. Would have been amazing. But at the same time, I don't know that the world at large was ready for that type of Star Wars. I think it would have been a much more niche thing than what we'd like to believe it would have been. Like, I think Game of Thrones was so successful because it was unique. There was nothing else like it. There was nothing to compare it to. Star Wars would always be compared against itself. and going in the direction of more adult, darker things like that. Like, as a fan, I would have loved it, and I think they would have been fantastic. But I don't know that at large it would have been as successful for the future. So I think the fan in me says the answer is HBO. I would have loved that. I wanted that. But the business brain says Disney was far and away the better option for the success and future of Star Wars, because now Star Wars can handle failure. It can handle things not succeeding to the level they should. If that hadn't have occurred, I don't think it could have. I think a critical failure would have been much more detrimental to the long-term success and would have devalued Star Wars in a much grander way than what has come to pass under Disney.
I'm just taking it all in because there's always 2020 hindsight, you know. There's always what could have been, what would have been, what should have been. But I think Johnny's got it down, because Underworld at the time would have been comparing itself to early seasons of the Clone Wars, because that came out in 2008. It would not have been comparing itself to anything like Rebels or Mandalorian, because those hadn't been conceptualized. So aside from a couple of early cartoony TV shows, it really only has the other 6 episodes to compare itself to. And if people don't find Underworld as engaging or as fun or as Star Wars like as episodes 1, 2, and 3, because those are the most recent things that you've seen on the big screen, things that you've seen from your franchise, if for whatever reason something happens that becomes a talking point, then that type of failure, that type of drop in popularity would have been much, much harder to come back from. And the margin for error would have been much, much thinner. Now, that's not to say that these episodes were or were not bangers. We don't know. We don't know, like, even who the script writers are, or if every script was going to be a 10 out of 10. Hell, not every episode of Game of Thrones is a 10 out of 10. Like, I keep drawing that comparison because it's been a talking point, and, you know, it is the thing that HBO picked up. Not everything from Game of Thrones has been a 10 out of 10, so there's no reason to believe that every episode of Star Wars Underworld is going to be a 10 out of 10. And if it's not, and if people become less of a fan of it and the stock drops, then whatever Lucas decides to do for episode 7, whatever he decides to do for his next project, becomes that much more scrutinized and becomes that much more under the microscope and becomes that much more looked at intently than pretty much anything that the fandom has looked at from Star Wars today. So I guess because I don't know what I'm missing, I'll just go ahead and take what I've got. Because there is some good stuff that we've gotten from the stuff in Disney. Not everything that we've gotten from Disney has been dog shit. And so I think I'm going to take the Disney stuff. At the core of your question, which one are you taking? I'm taking the Disney stuff. I like The Mandalorian. I like Rogue One. I thought Solo was fun. I gave The Mandalorian and Grogu something in the mid 60s, I think, like between 65 and 70. I think it was like a 68 or something like that. Like, that's not terrible. It's barely passing if you're talking about like grade school grades, but it's not terrible. And so, yeah, I think I'm just taking what I've got because I don't really know what I'm missing.
Yeah, I think, you dangle that HBO cookie in hindsight, you know what to say about that. I think I'm probably going the HBO route. just because with any level of success, we would have gotten episode 7, 8, and 9. I am curious how he would have, just how all of them would have interweaved their new main characters for your TV show across, several parties in with these all-star characters that would be popping up. They mentioned Vader, they mentioned Boba Fett, they mentioned it would have ended with the Death Star plans, which now makes sense where John Knoll got the idea from, because John Knoll would have been heavily involved in that project, and the planning and the budgeting, etc. And he also mentioned that the Vader and Kenobi thing that you see on Disney Plus, something like that would have happened. So, like, how do you sprinkle Obi-Wan in for 4 or 5 episodes out of nowhere? Where's that connection come up from? And so clearly Kathleen Kennedy and Filoni and company are looking at some of the things Lucas did, not just taking the whole thing, but taking ideas, and regardless of how they're executing on them or not executing on them, it's very clear. I know people have called Kathleen Kennedy a liar on this one, but it really does feel a lot of the Star Wars projects at least have, we'll call it source material from George Lucas, that they're going off of. What's next, dude?
You tell me. Do we have time to talk about the other Star Wars topic? Because I know we're getting kind of late into the night.
I mean, it's brief. If you need to go now, we can exit you now, and we can finish up.
No, I'm okay. I know we've been trying to keep it under 2 hours, and we're already pushing an hour and a half, and I just want to make sure you guys have enough time for your Halloween talk.
Yeah, we'll be good. I did not know that it was the 35th, 35 years since Heir to the Empire came out. That is bonkers. And as much as I pride myself in being a bit of a Star Wars behind the scenes historian, there's a lot I didn't know, such as Heir to the Empire was the first post Return of the Jedi book ever. They had never allowed, there wasn't even hardly any books prior to Heir to the Empire. There was a few, but not a mass collection of them. And I should have wrote down names and stuff. But in a nutshell, Lucasfilm approached, I want to say it's Bantam Publishing Group or something like that, about doing what George Lucas would consider to be episodes 7, 8, and 9. Because at that point, once again, he'd given up on the idea that he would ever get to 7, 8, and 9. He knew 1, 2, 3 was on the docket, but not 7, 8, and 9. And so Bantam accepted it, but they wanted to look in-house for their writer. And they didn't want to go with someone out-of-house. They just happened to sign Timothy Zahn to a 3-book deal, and not for Star Wars, but for something else entirely. And they basically put that deal on hold for him to do Heir to the Empire, and which is kind of remarkable in its own right. And when the book first came out, which I'd be way too young to remember, I guess I would have been 3 years older around that. When the book first came out, they had the hardcovers marked down to like almost half price, about 40% off, because Star Wars was so out of like just the cultural popularity thing, because there just wasn't hardly anything coming out for Star Wars between the years 1986 and 1990. It had gone quiet. It wasn't super relevant anymore. So they had the price marked down. Basically, they were setting themselves up for expected failure. The prices of the hardcovers were marked down. I believe they only printed 70,000 copies. And I believe within the first week or two, they were all sold out. Every print of Heir to the Empire worldwide. No one could get it anywhere. They started printing as quickly as they could, to a point where they ran out of the classic Heir to the Empire book. Now I know the ones Johnny has. They're you have the re-released ones, right? Like the almost like the water painting ones.
Yeah, the newer ones.
Yeah. This is like the classic old one that has the crazy white-haired wizard Jorah Sabaoth on the cover, and there's little pictures of like Han, Leia, and Luke, and it's a classic purple cover. Well, they were running so far behind schedule on prints because of how much the demand was for these books that the third edition of the books came out in a rare like tan cover. They didn't have enough purple to continue on. Um, so it ended up being this just raging commercial success. Was the best selling book in the world for a while. I forget the name of the author who was popular for being the top selling book back then, but he wrote Timothy Zahn like a fun little letter, being like, "Okay, congratulations, now stay in your lane." Um, and like I just never knew. Like I like Heir to the Empire because I think it's a great book and I think it's a great trilogy, but I'm too young to remember what really happened back then with novels. And um, there's a wonderful 2.5 hour making of available with Timothy Zahn, Mark Thompson, and the editor of the book, and they go over as much as they can in that 2.5 hours, whether it's in the book or the making of the book. And um, just I didn't realize how big of an impact it had, and to a point that a lot of people credit it with prior to them re-releasing the original trilogy on VHS, the black cases that have I think the Stormtrooper, Vader, and Yoda on them. This big thing that brought Star Wars back into the cultural eye was Heir to the Empire. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to put that out there into the ether, if you will, on year 35. I love it. It's one of my favorite books. So
Way to make me feel old. I was 13 when that book came out. Also, I mean, Nintendo had released, I think, their first Star Wars game. So, but yeah, that book, between that and the video games, it was a far cry from the Ewok movies that they did in the 80s, along with the droids and Ewoks cartoons that they did in the 80s. It was a long time coming, but you're right. There really wasn't a lot going on with Star Wars then, and I also the only thing I remember is just playing video games. I wasn't into the books at the time. I did actually have a copy of Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which was pretty cool. It was my mom's because she had that, but I didn't start getting into the Star Wars books until I got to college when I saw them at the bookstore and started picking them up then. But yeah, it's crazy to think it's been that long, and the universe they created ever since then is absolutely amazing. I just come a long way, without a shadow of a doubt.
It's a very underrated part of the Star Wars story, in that I think it set the table for a lot of what was to come in the 90s. I think without the success of that trilogy in the early 90s, I don't know how hard they pushed into, the Power of the Force action figures or Shadows of the Empire. I think those are things that people were caught off guard by the success of those books, to the point that people realized, wait a minute, we've got something here that we're not using to its full potential, and ramped things up. And just a couple years later, you get the Power of the Force action figure line, which it itself set the table for the episode 1 media push. Like it's underrated in that sense, that it doesn't sort of get the respect it deserves in the overall merchandising machine that is Star Wars. But I'll say this: how dare you besmirch the legacy of Ewoks and droids? Star Wars had a very great 80s. Oh, I said that with a straight face. I can't believe myself.
I was gonna say good luck. Even I can't say that with a straight face. It's almost like trying to say the holiday special was good. Try to do that with a straight face.
Holiday special was amazing. I don't know what you're talking about, Randy. Seriously though, it set the table for a lot of what was to come in the 90s, and it does not get the respect it deserves. It is just an amazingly phenomenal series that's so well written, And that's not even bringing into, the audiobook versions that we'd get in the later years. Like the Mark Thompson version of that is just, oh
The 20-year anniversary. Oh my
yeah,
god.
it is fantastic. It is in my opinion the best audiobook series in Star Wars. To go along
One
with,
through
again,
five.
what is,
Sorry, heck, I'd say 1 through 7 now. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to hear it, and it took some time to complete it. Like some of it hasn't been completed until under the Legends banner, but now with Mark Thompson doing it, you can do Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, Last Command. That's the original Thrawn trilogy. Then you got the Hand of Thrawn duology, which is almost as good as that one. I love it. What's that? Spectre of the Past and Vision of the Future.
Yeah.
And then you got the tie-ins, which are, there's, I don't want to call them Easter eggs, but the background is laid for them all over those first 5 Thrawn books. Is you get Outbound Flight, which is just a remarkable, like, honestly, if you've never listened to these books or read these books, do it in the order that they were released.
Mhm.
Do it Heir to the Empire trilogy or the Thrawn trilogy, and a Thrawn duology, then go back and do Outbound Flight, because to get more context in that, and then Survivor's Quest being the one that kind of leads you into the New Jedi Order series. It's just, Timothy Zahn, those 7 books, to me, they are essential. If you're starving for Star Wars, if the stuff that's being released today isn't quite up to snuff for you and you've never given these a chance, you need to give them a chance.
Absolutely. I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Timothy Zahn and Drew Carperson are the best writers of Star Wars literature, far and away. There are a lot of other great examples, but in my opinion, they are the 2 best.
R.A. Salvatore is up there for me. I like Salvatore, but not as much as I like Timothy Zahn.
I believe Salvatore introduced us to NJO, didn't he? I believe he has the first book in that.
I believe so. Vector Prime.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's funny.
He's one I don't associate with Star Wars, even though he does. Like when I think of R.A. Salvatore, I think of his fantasy series stuff, not his Star Wars stuff. And it's like, even when you said it, I'm like, well, he did Star Wars, and we started. I was like, oh shit, he did do Star Wars. It's not what I associate with him because he's so good at fantasy.
No, I agree. It's just that's the one that introduces us to the Vong, which is one of my favorite storylines. So Vector Prime is up there, but it's not as up there as the stuff that Zahn has written or any of the Thrawn stories, in my opinion. And it's funny because like that was going to be my trademark sign off goodbye. I was going to drive a really good point home that I was waiting for the opportunity, and then you guys all chimed in and pretty much said literally everything I was going to say. I love Mark Thompson. I think he's one of the best narrators in the game, and he does that trilogy so incredibly well. And so if you're not like a book reader, and if you want to like listen to something to go to bed at night, or if you go out for walks with your dog or whatever and need something to listen to, or if you do stuff like while working out, or if you like me and you're just kind of a loner with your work and you need something to listen to while you're commuting or you're at your desk, that is the stuff to do it. That is the stuff to listen to, because it is so well written, so well produced, so well narrated. Like, I don't think we give enough credit to the producers, not just the people who do the voice work, but the ones who incorporate the music, who incorporate the blaster sound effects, the hyperspace sound effects, the chapter transitions. It immerses you in the story, man. And so to have that with a story as good as what Zahn has put forth, if you don't want to sit down and read the book, sit down and listen to it. Do yourself a favor and listen to the audiobook, because it's spectacular.
I just love that we have all 7 now with Mark Thompson. It took years to get them all in, but we have them all. We have them all unabridged, more importantly. Just fantastic.
Yeah. Happy 35th to arguably one of the best trilogies in all Star Wars books, if not the best.
I was going to say, I don't know about arguably.
I could make the case for a couple of others, but I don't know if we've got time for that tonight.
Well, the next time we have you and Johnny on at the same time, maybe you guys can talk about your love of the Bane books. Johnny mentioned Drew Karpyshyn earlier, and you've just gone through them, I believe you said. And
I'm through 2. I'm on the wait list for book 3 at my library.
Gotcha.
The fact there's a wait list for Star Wars books in 2026 is just I love that so much
for
in my core.
Yeah, for the audiobook. So I use an app called Libby because I'm too cheap for Audible. And the way Libby...
Amazon Prime, free Audible, 1 a month.
Not enough for me. I you don't know how much I consume.
Yeah, but it's free, so you get the extra.
But the way it works is Libby has like a subscription to different books and audiobooks, but they only have a certain number of them in their database. And so much like a library has physical copies available at different branches, the audiobook feature only has a certain number of the audiobooks available. So I'm like second or third in line, so I'll be listening to that Bane book in a week or 2 probably.
Good stuff.
But yeah, I just finished Phasma by Delilah S. Dawson today, and that was a shit book. I had to really power through that like 3 or 4 times, and I was just doing it to kill time until the 3rd Bane book was ready, but it's still not ready, so I got to find something else to listen to. But January LaVoy is a good narrator also. She did nothing wrong with that book. That was all Dawson's fault. That was a shitly written book. It was just, the pacing was bad. There were logical fallacies throughout. I didn't latch on to the characters that I'm supposed to latch on to. It was just not a good story. It wasn't worth it. And I was really hopeful, Sean, because I love Gwendolyn Christie, and I was hoping that maybe this book would do something to kind of like help redeem and help me imagine Christie in this role, in this book, to kind of like recover from some of the disappointment that we had of her appearances in the movies. All it did was make me more mad, because they present her as like this elite fighter who comes from this really terrible background where you have to fight to survive. And so fighting is just a survival instinct for her. And then she gets shit-faced by Finn in episode 8. Like, in the book, she never lets her guard down. There is nothing that gets past her. And then in episode 8, he just like comes up on an elevator and he says, "Hey," and he whacks her upside the face with a stun baton. Like, what the fuck? I got to get out of here before I go on a rant on something I'm not supposed to, guys. Thanks for having me on.
It was a pleasure having you back, man. Looking forward to, I was going to say next Sunday, but I'm way too tired these days and need my sleep to be able to do the Sunday night thing. But we'll be back Monday with our thoughts on the Battle of the Gullet. Sounds like it's going to be spectacular. Sounds like the battle itself takes up like half an hour of the entire episode, which, again, it might not seem like much, but when it's half an hour of straight battling with no breather, that's a lot.
I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to being back here more regularly. Thanks for having me on, guys. Y'all have a good night.
You too, buddy. There you have it. Sorry, 1 second, guys. We heard something outside, and we live in the middle of nowhere, so we're just going to be a little safe here. Johnny, really quickly, we'll go back to the books here for a second. Have you had the opportunity to go through all the Mark Thompson Thrawn Legends books? Because now, if you include the new canon, there's 6 more, right, that are all done by Mark Thompson. So he's got quite a bit of Thrawn work.
I've done the original trilogy and I've done the duology. I haven't done any of the standalones yet. So, yeah, I've done the trilogy and I've done the duology. That's it so far. I'll probably eventually get around to the individuals eventually. But it's not that they're not high on my list or on my list. It's just more that, you know, there are other things on the list that fill that time, I guess. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I would say for you, like I do think you would enjoy the canon books. And I was going to say to Zach before he took off, I'm noticing in the new canon, there's a lot more misses with Star Wars novels than hits compared to the old canon. And I know, surprise, surprise, right? What an unexpected turn of events, but the Zahn novels in the new canon, in my opinion, have not been misses. They've been excellent. But I think Survivor's Quest and Outbound Flight specifically, like Survivor's Quest is good, but I think you'd really enjoy Outbound Flight. And I think that before you listen to those ones or read those ones, to definitely go back and do the trilogy and
I've
the
read them all.
duology again, and if not, then brush up on like some recap videos somewhere, just so that
Yeah.
the references to all these things are still there.
I've read them all, as they've come out, but I just haven't listened to the audiobooks because, like you said, it's been a while to get them all out, and, it just became the easier way to just read them, which is usually, you know what I mean? Like, we've had this discussion a great many times. I am more, I prefer the read than the listen. But, Mark Thompson is, if there's anyone I'm going to listen to, it's going to be him.
All right, so Mr. What do we have here? Noticing Toku Writer is disappointed at the lack of Halloween. Well, my phone's only at 20%, and we got some Halloween to talk about. In terms of the title, no, I think we got a really important Halloween segment for you right now that we're about to get into. Look, the YouTube game is this, and I just don't have time for it anymore. Is someone will put a live stream up, and during the live stream, it'll be one title. And then once the live stream's over, they'll title it something else to help them in the algorithm. And then a few days later, they'll go back and title it something else. And the ones that are really active on it, trying to make every red penny they possibly can, will even change the thumbnail too, which can make it look like a different video altogether. And then you get 10 minutes into it, realizing you already watched it again. We're not doing that. I don't have the time for that or the patience for that. But I'm happy to talk some Halloween now. And one of the things that's being talked about most, fellas, naturally, I think I uploaded these to the wrong section, so you're going to have to bear with me and wait a little longer now, is the legacy character models were revealed for Halloween the game. And, people have been discussing for a long time if Jamie Lee Curtis would lend her likeness to the game. My personal opinion, with the direction the franchise is going, especially with the 50th, likely a fresh start, but we'll see where that goes. Now's the perfect time to break away from that. Don't pay Jamie Lee Curtis an assload of money that you cannot afford on this title. This is not a AAA game after all. Despite how it's been presented in public, it's still factually not a AAA game. And don't kill your budget on getting her likeness. Like, move on to someone else. And I don't know about you guys, there's people complaining, but I think this looks like a fine Laurie Strode. And people are going on about the overshirt. Like, you can tell the undershirt's the same, but why not mix up the attire a little bit? We've already heard that we're going to be, you can play the story as if it is Halloween 1, but with all the stuff we didn't see in it, or you can make some decisions that crafts you a different Halloween 1. The hate that this is getting from, I'll call them purists, is just ridiculous. Like, if you're not open to change for stuff that we've technically already gotten in a different format, then you shouldn't want this stuff. You should want something brand new and fresh. I love the fact they went with someone else, and I think she looks great.
No, I agree. This is something that needed to happen. I actually showed this screenshot to my friend over the weekend, and he's like, "Where's Jamie Lee Curtis? She is Halloween." And I sat there, I was like, "You know how much it would cost? She would probably charge just to have her likeness in this game. She would, yeah. It's not like it's EA or Activision or somebody else that could actually afford it. It's a little indie company who had to do a Kickstarter to get Friday the 13th off the ground. So I think this is as good of anything attempt to give us something new, something different, uh, and stay within their budget and try to deliver the experience the fans want versus let's just blow our budget on something that is going to cost us to the point of quality control for the game itself. I'd rather have a quality game and have people that look similar to characters versus people who look exactly like the characters you get in the movies.
Yeah, I could not care less, honestly. It's not something to me that is effective in any way, shape, or form. That it doesn't cast an effect on the game in any way. Like, is it something down the road you could add assuming it's profitable enough that you could add a skin of Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie into the game future down the road? Sure. If it's profitable enough, if there's enough money made, if the content goes far enough down the road, sure, because it's distinctly possible. And to say that, like, it's not, it's not it's absolutely distinctly possible, and something that's, I don't want to say be done, but let's not sleep on the fact that this isn't even the first time this has happened. Like, we make a big deal about, Halloween content, but when they added Michael Myers and the Halloween content to Dead by Daylight, wasn't Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode?
No, it wasn't.
It was a
To be
Laurie
honest,
Strode
the Halloween
skin.
content for that game sucks outside of a cinematic trailer.
No, but it exists, is what I'm saying. Like, it, like, this, it wasn't a stink then. Like, it's not a big deal. If you're playing this game to see Jamie Lee Curtis, I don't know what you're even doing here.
My thoughts exactly.
It's, if you want to see Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode, go watch one of the movies. I'm sure you've got them on VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray. Like, pick your poison. Go watch it on one of those formats, or catch it on TV or a streaming service. Like, there's a lot of options if that's what you want to see. We don't need it here because it's not important here. Like, you have Dr. Loomis. What more do you need?
As I say, Loomis looks about as close to the late great Donald Pleasance as he can possibly get. So,
like, it's just it's completely irrelevant. I don't, I can't say I care because I genuinely don't. It's not, like I said, I'm not playing this game to see Jamie Lee Curtis.
Exactly.
I'm playing this game for Michael Myers, and you got the mask. That's all you need. I don't even care if you have, like, you have to because you're doing the Halloween 1 story for the story mode. But if that wasn't there and you didn't even have a Laurie Strode character, still would not care.
Yeah, I don't think it's needed. If that's where your bar is, then man, I think you're going to be disappointed with everything with this game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think she looks great. I'd look at that and I go, yeah, that could easily be Laurie Strode. And then we move on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now people's complaints might be that the character models for the other three, Annie, Linda, and Bob, all look a little closer to the actual actors that played them, even though they are not them and not their likeness. The one-to-one's a little closer, especially Bob's. But, like, it's a video game, people, not a AAA title. It's not Grand Theft Auto, which cost over $1 billion. It's not Gears of War ED, which cost $400 million plus. The game was made for significantly less than that by a large margin.
Even if they had gone down the route of licensing the other characters in question here, it would make financial sense for them to do that, because let's be honest, the difference in a check between Jamie Lee Curtis and the other three combined would still have less zeros on the 3 versus the 1. So like it's NBD, Yes, they look similar, but it's similar in a in an appropriate, like, character descriptive kind of way,
Toku says, notice how there were 0 daytime scenes shown off in either concept art or the trailer. And they go on to say, if Ilphonic removed practically the second act of the... Sorry, my screen is messing up here. Second act of the original movie and replace it with their own scenes, I'd be pretty disappointed. I don't know if that's what's going on. But I would say it's probably a safe bet that either some things are going to be changed, or maybe that's the road they chose to go down in order to blend the two in with one another. But to this point, we have not seen a single daytime shot. I've not thought to ask any of the sources that we have here if they do anything in daytime. It's just not something that was on my mind. I don't think it's going to be a make or break thing for me, but the next time I speak with one of them, I will ask. It would be in the know.
I personally,
I don't think there's going to be daytime.
See, I'm the
It
opposite.
wasn't in Friday the 13th.
I'm the opposite. I think it will because of the story. I think you'll have it in the story, but not in the multiplayer. I think you'll have a limited portion of the single player story take place in the daytime, but that's it. I think the reason we haven't seen it is because everything we've seen that isn't cinematic is multiplayer game footage. I think that's kind of the difference. Like when we actually get this game and actually start playing the single player mode, I think we will have the daytime stuff, or at least some of it. But because it's not in the multiplayer, it's not the driving force of sales and the game and the content of it. Because like we said last week when we were discussing this, it's not as much the single player that's going to move the sales of this game. It's the multiplayer. And that's the inherent nature of the isometric multiplayer games, right? Like it's volumetric based on the scalability of the multiplayer. And I think the multiplayer is not going to have any element of it take place in the day because that makes no sense.
Yeah,
but the story does, I don't want to say necessitate having some daytime, but unless you are going to remove a lot of it, there are certain sequences that are very important to the story of the first film that take place during the daytime that have to be there, in my opinion.
I'm going to disagree heavily with that. And it's probably going to piss off the purists who think Halloween 1's the best. I know that's most of the fan base, but really, truly think about what happens during the daytime in the original Halloween. Think about the events that revolve around Michael Myers, because that's who you're playing in the single player mode, and tell me what's exciting that you would get to do in the daylight that would translate well to a video game. He bumps into Tommy, the pumpkin falls. He watches Laurie through the door drop off the key. He stalks the girls and stalks Laurie outside of the school. Stalks Laurie while walking towards the bush there. Speed kills when he's driving the station wagon. That's it. Like, from Michael's perspective, we see him drive by Loomis and the hardware shop in town. He stalks the girls in the car. But no definitive events happen in the daylight. I'm not saying they're not definitive in the movie, because I think all that stuff makes the movie what it is. All the anticipation, the drawing out, the suspense. When's this guy going to do something? That's what adds to the mystique of Halloween. But in a video game, I would absolutely argue that you don't need any of that.
So,
in this specific type of video game anyways.
So I believe when we first, everything first comes out, the multiplayer maps are probably all going to be set at nighttime because obviously one of the biggest mechanics in the game is utilizing the shadows and the light to your advantage and disadvantage. That's not to say, and with DLC, depending on what they decide to do and what direction they go, because if you think about it, you could take Smith's Grove and give it a daytime where the sunlight comes into the windows and creates the shadows so that you would have ways of being able to hide and use your abilities as Michael and things like that. Or if they go the route of actually, paying homage to Season of the Witch and do the Silver Shamrock Factory, where you can utilize daylight in that respect. But for the most part, it's the only time I can see the daytime, like you guys are saying, is in the story mode, which I think is fine. I think that will add to the game a lot of, finding ways for Michael to kind of stay out of sight during the daytime, doing that sort of thing as part of like a mission. That's fine. I'm fine with that. But for the multiplayer aspect of it all, you still have to have that element of darkness. And for the most part, I think that's what we're going to get. That's just, unfortunately, that's the mechanics we're working with. The same thing was with the Friday the 13th game. Even though, yes, Camp Crystal Lake and surrounding areas that you ended up in the movies, you still needed the element of the shadows. It added to just the flow of the game and how it worked. It's not impossible to bring daytime in, but it's going to be very difficult, and it's going to have to be very specific settings to be able to make it work and still be able to play the game without feeling like your experience is just hindered by it.
I do think Michael's shape morphing ability, or whatever it's called in the game, makes it really hard to have daylight too, in the way that it functions and needing to be out of the light and in the shadows.
I think from a certain perspective, and this is just me, I think that sort of plays itself well if they're going for sort of tutorial-esque. What better way to teach you properly about shadows than to have a place where they are much more prominent, which is during the daytime. I think having things like the hedge, or even like the scene where Laurie's in the classroom and sees him out in was it the football field?
Just across the street.
Okay. But scenes like that play well where you can teach those sort of mechanics, which if you're going to include that as part of the single player experience as a teaching vessel for the multiplayer, then I don't think it's important, but I think
Sorry, guys. Continue. Hello?
Did you go mute there, Johnny, or did you lose your thought?
No, I finished it. Did it not seem clear at an end point?
Just making sure.
I'm being bandaged as we speak. So, yeah, it's not that I wouldn't want to play the daytime scenes. Some of my favorite scenes from Halloween 4 are the daytime scenes, right? Like, not that Halloween 4 is going to be featured in this, but I'm just saying in terms of trimming away fat, keeping it short, and given what we've seen, I'd like to think we would have seen something in the daylight by now. And the fact that we've seen absolutely nothing leads me to believe there is no daylight. Could be wrong. Open to being wrong. Not like I'd be upset about it, but I'm saying prepare for the idea that stuff you may not get to do.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if it's not there, I'm not going to, have a hair carry, but, I would like it in the story player. In the story mode, I would like it there. Just not in the multiplayer.
I got you. I mean, hey, I'd be okay with, some dawn or dusk maps in multiplayer, but I just don't think we're getting any of that. Toku says he doesn't want the campaign short. Well, that's probably going to be short, buddy. I think it's going to be very short. But because there are different decisions that change the story, it'll have some replay value. You won't just play through it one time and it's streamlined and that's the end. You'll be able to do it again, make different decisions that take the story in a different way. Now, not to the level of like a Heavy Rain or a oh my god, what's the one you just said that they were making a movie of? Or another movie of, I forget the name of it. Until Dawn.
You're thinking of the
But,
sequel. The movie came out a couple years ago.
Yeah, sorry, but it's not going to be to that level by any means. They don't have that kind of budget behind it. It's not those kind of cinematics, but there'll be some replay value. But I'm telling you not to expect more than a couple hours for the story. Yeah, I mean, does anyone have any problem with these character models? I think they all resemble the characters from Halloween '78.
Yeah, they're close enough that it's clear who all of the characters are supposed to be.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah, it's not. It's not like we're looking at any of these characters and going, "Who exactly is that supposed to be?" Anyway, so.
Yeah, we're not confusing them to be Padme or Leia or anything of the sort. I'm going to save the Halloween 25. Well, you should get a chance to drive a car. Driving a car is in the game. So, I don't know.
Until such time as we actually get to the game and you get into the car and then it cuts to you getting out of the car and you don't actually get to drive
it.
Don't put that out there.
I believe
I genuinely think that's a distinct possibility.
No, I've seen stuff just like Friday the 13th from clips that were released from people that got to play at, I forget what the hell the convention was.
I guess I should say I could see it in the multiplayer, not necessarily the single player.
No, yeah, I have no idea about single player, but it's definitely in the multiplayer the way it was.
Yeah, no, the multiplayer makes sense. It kind of has to have an element of that.
I believe there's cars, bikes, etc. So, we're going to save the Halloween 25 topic for next week since we've gone a little long here tonight. But we'll probably cap that off as our main topic after the House of the Dragon season 3, episode 1 review, which will not take up the whole episode. But that's going to do it for us this evening. Randy, where can everybody find you at, buddy?
So over on X, you can find me at Giggity Giles, and that's it for now until probably football season when I'll start recording with the Sports Brew again. So unfortunately, nothing on that front. Summer vacation for all the dudes with kids, so really hasn't been a lot of time to do that. So, but for now, you'll be finding me here every week, and then in the fall, you'll be finding me here, and then the Sports Brew.
I thought for sure you were about to do the Dustin and steal his line here, there, and everywhere. I heard here, I'm like, oh, Randy's going dark side. And then you let me down. Johnny, where can everybody find you at?
Man, I'm not going to be around very much over the next couple of months. So let me have my gimmick in my last night, with a guaranteed appearance, okay? So, I'll be here, there, and everywhere. And never has that been more true than right now heading into the House of the Dragon coverage, where you never know when I'm going to pop up, Like we said, I'm not going to be a fixture over the next couple months, but I'll pop up when the content requires my presence. It's like if there's big news, I'll be here. If there's a fun opinion topic that I want to weigh in on, I'll be here. But I'm excited. I mean, it's going to be.
When we honor the one true King Stannis, you can bet your ass Johnny will be here with Zach.
I will not be here that night. No, I will not be. No, thank you. Stannis no. How dare you? How dare you? You started the show that way. Now you're gonna end the show that way. You get on Zach for that off the top, and then you come at me with that at the end. But speaking of, you mentioned a show earlier a movie off the top. You were talking about the King Arthur movie. I pulled that cast list up where you guys were talking, and oh my god, it is so much better than even you said.
I haven't seen it in years. I remember renting it from Blockbuster and loving it.
Ian Garfield are the ones you mentioned, but here's the names you didn't mention who are also in this film: Mads Mikkelsen, Joel Edgerton, Hugh Dancy, and Ray Stevenson.
Holy moly!
And Stellan
I'm
Skarsgård.
pretty sure Stevenson plays one of the Round Table Knights, but
Dancy
really-
and Edgerton are both Knights of the Round Table. So is Gruffald. Mads Mikkelsen, I think, is one of the Knights. I can't remember all of the names of all of the Knights of the Round Table, but it's
gonna have to give that movie a watch again.
that cast alone makes me go, how have I never seen this movie?
Yeah, I just remember being taken back by it when it came out. Young Sean might have been watching a movie for Keira Knightley on the heels of Pirates of the Caribbean, but found it pretty. I was never a King Arthur guy growing up, right? So, hell, like I love Charlie Hunnam, but I didn't give his fucking King
That
Arthur a
movie was
chance at all,
terrible.
right? So, yeah, I heard it was. Glad I didn't give it a shot. But this movie, which I think was supposed to have sequels but never ended up having any, it's good.
That I don't know.
It's quite good. So, anyways, for Johnny and Randy and everyone else, I'm Sean. We will see you next week when the Empire, in fact,